don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. He'll point who's next. Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them dead. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Beat like gas. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right in the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feed the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 40 of the Commanders Gridiron Report. Here to talk about Jayden Daniels. As we have our first episode of the new year. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of the Commanders Gridiron Report, brought to you by
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Trademark since 2024. Welcome to the show. We got many things we got to talk about on this fine evening, on this Friday evening. Again, the first episode of 2024. And we do have somebody here in the live comments. Ike is here and says, yo, well, welcome here, brother, and glad that you can make it. Let me give you a proper shout out here in these streets.
What's that?
Was it? There it is. For old Ike. We got many things to talk about tonight when it comes to the Commanders and such. Let's go ahead and take it into the 1st and 10 and get this thing all started.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy?
Here at the 1st and 10, Daniels and Ertz deliver in overtime to secure playoff berth as the Falcons fall to the Commanders 30-24 in Landover, Maryland. This game was in Week 17 this past weekend on December 29th. It was an 8:15 game this past Sunday night, as there were high stakes in this contest. When you look at the caption there, Daniels and Ertz deliver, and I'll even bring up this main thumbnail for the show as he deliver in overtime. They absolutely did, as it was Michael Penix that led the Falcons to a scoring drive with only 1 minute and 19 seconds left in the game this past Sunday night to score the game at 24-all. I mean, this game altogether, it took the Commanders to have a total of 412 yards, all-purpose yards between passing and rushing to get it done. Rushing yards, they had 216 on the day, thanks to old JD and Brian Robinson and company. Passing yards, not as much. Penix outdueled him in passing yards on the day when you look at all things collectively. Now, putting things into perspective, when it comes to Daniels and Ertz connecting there at the end of the game, it was absolutely huge for the Commanders. It was absolutely huge for them to make this playoff push. Zach Ertz with 2 touchdowns in this game. The second one was the bigger of the two as it came in overtime. And you got to look at this game for what it was. I mean, this was a game for the Falcons that they needed to win desperately to remain in control of their division and to take it over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With this loss, it takes everything out of their hands. They still have to win, and they need some help in order to get in the playoffs. But for the Commanders, they secured a playoff berth as at least the number 7 seed for this upcoming playoff run. If they win this weekend, they can move up to the number 6 seed with a little help as well, which would be a little more beneficial for them, and I'll talk more about that in today's episode. But for the 1st and 10, the fact that Old Faithful Zach Ertz delivering the fatal blow to the Falcons' for the Commanders to get in the playoffs before the Falcons do, and they're getting in as a wild card team. This other team's fighting for a division spot. Seeding is a little bit different when it comes to that because they will get the number 4 seed, and we'll talk more about that in this show. But for the first and 10 for the first segment, for Zach Ertz to come through with not only 1 but 2 touchdowns, second one being the biggest, especially when we break down everything else that transpired in this game for it to get to where it was at the point of that overtime touchdown. You'd be pretty surprised if you didn't catch this game in full action or in the replay. We're going to break it down here and more with this next segment that we have coming up, and that is with the Burgundy Flex Review, where we take a look at the highlights from this past week, and that being the Week 17 contest against the Atlanta Falcons.
Go to my neck, Burgundy Flex. Pour the smoke, we bringing it home. Be my guest.
And here with the Burgundy Flex Review, again, this is the segment that we look at the highlights from the contest from the past week. And this is JD celebrating on the field, hype that his team is doing the things they are doing here in the 2024 season. We're going to break that down a little bit more in today's episode. Let's take it to the first quarter, when it was the Commanders that struck first, and it was a player that was formerly on this Atlanta Falcons team that did the damage to get that first score. But we got to talk about the pressure that Jaden Daniels was under during this game. I mean, he was scrambling, running around for his life because this offensive line still needs some help with another piece or two. We've been talking about this all year long. When you look at the fact of JD scrambling around in these 3 different shots, I mean, this was a common thing for him throughout the game, where he was running around, making plays happen on these RPO plays. Good old JD running around, scrambling around, making things happen, because on the day he was 24 of 36 for 227 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And again, that first score coming from Olamide Zaccheaus, the former Atlanta Falcon, who is now with the Commanders, scoring that first touchdown for the team to go up 7-0 with 9 minutes and 33 seconds left in the first quarter. Now, Bijan Robinson is an absolute stud over there for the Falcons as far as a running back goes. He is absolutely getting things done. Look at how nasty his juke moves are within this clip right here. And then him actually running for that first touchdown that he had. He had 2 touchdowns on the day. They were actually back-to-back scores, as he would score on a 1-yard run with 5 minutes and 10 seconds left in the first quarter. And then again, he would score in the second quarter to make it 14-7 Falcons, as they would take their first lead and only lead of the contest when it comes to that, as they would extend it with the 39-yard field goal by Riley Patterson. But Robinson's touchdown run right here on his second touchdown definitely made this an interesting game. Now with that Riley Patterson field goal, it's not Young J.KUL. That's the normal kicker that they have in there, but he is definitely injured right now, and they had to go with Patterson, who did strike on that 39-yard field goal. But we're going to bring Patterson back up here in a little bit as we go from the Zaccheaus touchdown to the Robinson touchdown to that Riley Patterson 39-yard field goal. It is 17-7 Falcons at halftime. The Commanders definitely need to dig deep to make things happen in this Week 17 contest, as they were down 17-7, and they would. When they came back, the only score in the third quarter came by the Commanders, and it was the first of 2 touchdowns, that coming from Zach Ertz on a 10-yard pass from Jaden Daniels. Zane Gonzalez kick makes it a 17-14 game. The Commanders are only down by a field goal heading into the start of the fourth quarter. Now, old C-Rod would get some action that was set up on Terry McLaurin's one and only catch of the day. C-Rod, Chris Rodriguez, would take it into the house for a 2-yard touchdown run. Zane Gonzalez will make it a 21-17 game after the end of the extra point. Now, Michael Penix wasn't done. This rookie quarterback, he was making moves. He was making moves in this game right here. As on the day for Penix, he was 19 of 35 for 223 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, as mother, father, and well. Now, Bijan Robinson on the day, 17 carries, 90 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, Drake London had 7 receptions for 106 yards as well. But Penix right here, look at the eyes, look at the determination. Look at what he's trying to do out here. Coming off of that Chris Rodriguez touchdown in the fourth quarter, along with the Zane Gonzalez field goal, makes it a 24-17 Commanders lead with 4 minutes and 32 seconds left. But again, Penix wasn't messing around on his day as he got a 13-yard pass to Kyle Pitts with a Riley Patterson kick, would make it a 24 tied-up game there in the end of the fourth with 1 minute and 19 seconds left in the game. This game would then go to overtime because Riley Patterson would have the opportunity again, as they would get the ball back, he would have the opportunity to win the game. With 2 seconds left, missing the field goal that young J.KUL would have made. And that's where the Falcons got gypped, because if KUL would have been in this game, the Commanders would have lost. And I'm just going to tell you that straight up right now. No qualms about it. They would have lost this game had KUL been in there. But coulda, shoulda, woulda doesn't matter, because the kicker that was in there was Riley Patterson, and he missed it to send this game into overtime. Now that we're into overtime, JD uses his legs. Gets the ball down into the red zone to set up a pass from him following this run. They would get a touchdown to Zach Ertz, his second touchdown of the day. As Zach Ertz would celebrate that second touchdown with his teammates, they would go up 30-24 to end the game in overtime, as Jayden Daniels embraces everyone around him. The media soaking this up. He's soaking this up as the Commanders improve to 11-5 following this overtime win. The third time this year that Jayden Daniels has had a comeback victory, the first being against the Chicago Bears, which I was there for that Hail Mary game, and I can't stress it enough because I'm still happy with myself for making time in the busy schedule to actually go to that game for one and to be a part of that. That was awesome. And to, be there wearing this jersey as they were wearing these jerseys on that day for the Hail Mary. And that's why I wear it here, because it just felt like it again. You look at what he did, several weeks later. You look at what he did now. Jayden Daniels has been an absolute stud in this season. And doing what he is absolutely doing, coming back and fighting back against the Eagles on December 22nd, right before Christmas. Then right after Christmas, you get the win against the Falcons. This win right here is their 4th straight win, coming off of that 34-26 loss against the Cowboys, which they face this upcoming weekend. And I'll break that down here in a little bit. But right here and now, 4 straight wins for the Commanders. Got to be mother, father, and proud of them if you're a Commanders fan. I am. I'd still like them to be the old name, and I've stressed that enough, and I'm sure some of you out there are probably like, go back to wearing the gear. Well, I don't have to go back to wearing the gear, because I have the tattoo right here that'll forever be as part of this half sleeve. Hate it or love it, the underdog's on top. And I'm going to shine out here, as 50 Cent said in his song back in the day. You name the song out here in the live chat, you get a bonus. Give you a shout out on the show. Let me know what you think if you know what I'm talking about. Going back 20 years out here. Football, hip-hop, what's up, y'all? Making things interesting out here in these streams. Having a good old time. 4 straight wins for the Commanders. You got to be happy for them. You really do. Because at least you are not this.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Because nobody wants to be that.
You can't handle the truth.
Sorry, not sorry.
Acknowledge me.
Come on now, we're having fun out here.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
At least we're not recapping,
What?
Was that a total surprise, or was it not?
Surprise, motherfucker.
Come on now, let's have some more fun out here in these streams. Again, 4 straight wins for the Commanders. We went through the highlights and looked through the pictures. You guys are quiet out there. I see you all out there. I can see the numbers of people watching this live. You need to speak up in the live chat. We are live. This is not pre-recorded. I'm just talking some smack out here in these streams, having a little fun, poking fun at y'all watching this, whether you're watching this on Team MBS Media or
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
When it comes to that, we'll see what you guys got to say during the first commercial break, as gotta get to that first commercial break. When we come back, we gotta talk about the MVPs from the previous game, the Soldiers of the Week. We gotta talk about the Showstopper segment. Gotta go to the opponent of the week, talking about them boys, the Cowboys. We're gonna talk about them here in a little bit. We're gonna also go into the final drive. We got 4 segments left. Don't you go anywhere. I'll see you here after this first short commercial break.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign DWillie87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered a winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text. Delete.
Join these two football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 40, the first of the new year. Happy New Year on January 3rd, 2025. We are only 4 days away from the best day of January. I'll let you guess what that is. What is the best day of January? Especially when it involves this right here.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
I'll let you guess out here in the comments, as we do have some comments. Mickey Delaney is in the house, says, what up, Drew and Cole? Well, you're saying what up to the commercial, as it is just me, my man, me, myself, and I on the Commanders Gridiron Report this evening. But shout out to you for making it here, out here in these streams. Ike was laughing at something I said right before the break, and he also said, just watch the Fingernail Man short. If y'all are watching this on Sertoba Media, go back and look at the shorts at some point later on, and you can see the Fingernail Man short that I uploaded yesterday. That's, I guess, is what he's talking about. And he says the Willie Bucks commercial gets him every time. Well, I appreciate you for tuning into that. And your question that you have, I'll actually save that for when we get to that segment here shortly because we're going to talk about the Cowboys. We'll talk about them boys. We'll talk about many things here to come on this show. But first, we have to get to our MVPs of this week and talk about the Soldiers of the Week.
Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side.
And here for the Soldiers of the Week. When it comes to this segment right here, we got to acknowledge the standouts from the Week 17 matchup. And when it comes to this, there were 3 that came in mind for this. One who had 2 touchdowns last week, that was Zacchaeus. One this week, he had 8 receptions for 85 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. We also have to take a look at Zach Ertz, who had 6 receptions for 72 receiving yards, including 2 touchdowns. That the main one came from that overtime ceiling victory when he took the go-ahead score of 30-24 over the Falcons in overtime with that touchdown. Jaden Daniels, though, was the main culprit behind everything. 24 of 36 for completions out of attempts, 227 passing yards with 3 passing touchdowns. He did have 1 interception. However, he did have the 3 touchdowns to kind of overrule that. So when it comes to that, Jaden Daniels was the number 1 star, the number 1 Soldier of the Week for this team, as he had 16 carries as well for 127 rushing yards on the day, averaging nearly 8 yards per carry. 7.9 yards per rushing attempt. It's absolutely balling out here on this green. Looking at what this man did. Looking at what Zach Ertz did. Looking at what Olamide Zacchaeus did against his former team with the touchdown. 3 receptions from your receivers. Well, one being your tight end, coming for 2 of those, but the other one from your receiver. Terry McLaurin, the only one that was really quiet on this day, is that 1 catch that we showed you earlier in the clips. That was the only thing he did all day, was that 1 catch on the day. He had 1 catch for 5 yards. Everything else pretty much coming from Ertz and Zacchaeus, with Crowder rounding out with 3 receptions for 25 yards there, Jamison Crowder. But for this is my pick for the Soldiers of the Week. And that's who I stand with when it comes to my selection. Who do you think? Do you guys have anybody else you want to throw out there for your picks for Soldiers of the Week? Let me know out here in the comments. But when it comes to that, we're going to take it on into the showstopper.
I off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feed the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
And when it comes to the showstopper, what adjustments can they make to improve from the Week 17 win? I mean, what do you think? Out here, we're going to talk about it when it comes to that topic here in these streams. We do have a few comments out here. Apparently, Mick is already getting on Ike, telling him to stay in his lane, and Ike comes back with them boys gonna win, bruh. Oh, man, here it goes. We already got a sighting of this.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
We're going to talk about them boys and taking the... We're going to talk about it, but not right now. Right now, we got to talk about the showstopper and what we have to improve from. But before that, if this is your first time tuning in on Team MBS Media or SHOWSTOPPER Media, please click that subscribe button. Please click that like button. Please click that share button. Let's help this show get out to more people out here in these streams with an improved algorithm by you sharing it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Subscribe now and never miss out. Now, when it comes to adjustments they can make to improve from the Week 17 win, I mean, the big thing that you got to look at is your production from your running backs. Brian Robinson Jr. had less carries than your quarterback, who scrambled around for 16 carries on the day for 127 rushing yards. Your next top running back was good old Brian Robinson Jr. with his 13 carries for 60 yards, no touchdown. Now, the touchdown part doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. The Jaden Daniels, had 100 yards running. But what bothers me is that he has more carries than the running backs. and nearly had more carries than all of his running backs combined when you add Robinson Jr., Rodriguez Jr., Zacchaeus, who ran once for 8 yards, and Jeremy McNichols, who only had 1 carry for 5 yards. But it did get a first down there at the end, towards the end of the fourth quarter, to help set up their final score that they had to get to 24 points for when the Falcons scored. It was a tie game going into overtime. Now, when you add the other carries together between those 4 people, Robinson, Rodriguez, Zacchaeus, and McNichols, it's 20 carries. Jaden Daniels at 16. He's got to slow it down a little bit. I think, some will argue that him running the ball and being mobile is what's gotten them to this point, and I would agree with you to an extent. But I feel like it shouldn't come at the sacrifice of your other running backs getting less carries than the one person, and that being your quarterback. This is what we saw a little more out of Lamar Jackson at the beginning of his career. And even though it's led to 2, almost potentially 3 MVPs, when it comes to that, you just put yourself in danger of getting hurt. We already saw what happened with RG3, and even though this is a completely new era, a completely new coaching staff, different era, different everything, because there's different ownership and everything, with even a different name that we don't want, but still, it's still a name. When you put it all together, there's history, and I just don't want to see him get run into the ground and not fully meet what his potential is showing that we can see. We could see some great things from this kid in this franchise if he decides to stay, of course, after, his contract's up. But the way things are going, the way things are starting, especially with the ownership, the management, the coaching staff, it's beginning to look like a beautiful marriage in the beginning. We'll see how things continue to pan out. But the one thing I will say that they really need to improve on when it comes to offensively is distributing the runs a little bit more within your running backs. And if you can't get the production there, I see why you're going to your quarterback more in that case. But at the same time, it's a recipe for disaster moving forward, or you just have a lot more danger ahead of you playing this style of football and offense than you really do by balancing the load out a little more. I'm not against him running the ball 10, 12 times. Not even against it 15. As long as your next runner, like your running back, needs to have more carries than you in that case, I believe. I just disagree with the fact of having that as your main premise. But when you're in a game like this with the Falcons, when it's back and forth, sometimes you got to pull out the bags of tricks. And this is apparently what happened in this game, to what led to that, goal line run, to where he was able to get that pass to Ertz and get the overtime victory. What I'm just saying is they don't need to have that in their game plan as their main go-to every time, because at some point you're going to have enough tape and enough players on the other side on defense to contain it, and they're going to run into that wall in the playoffs. I just don't want that wall to be ran into that ends with something significantly negative on the other end of it, and I'm just going to leave it at that to avoid any jinxing of any kind. The defense, I would say overall, the defense hasn't completely disappointed me. They've given up a lot of points this year to teams that you would expect them to give up a lot of points to, like the Eagles. The Falcons, 24 points isn't too bad. The Cowboys one was surprising back in November when they gave up the amount of points they did on that day, when they gave up 34 points to only score 26 against them, but it is a divisional game, so I'll chalk it up for what it is. The Steelers scoring 28 points isn't that bad, and the Ravens scoring 30. Even the Bengals scoring 33 because of what you got in the Buccaneers scoring 37 in the first game of the season. There's not games where they have been completely blown out by teams that were questionable. The only one I would say would be the Cowboys being in November, and we'll see how that rings true this upcoming weekend on Sunday when they face each other for the second and final time this year. But for the things on defense, I will say, the one thing is kind of redundant that I'm about to say, which you really can't control. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore just needs to get healthy. In my opinion, you had him for the Saints game. The following week when you play the Eagles, he was there and you won. But this is now going to be the second straight week where you have not had him in the lineup because you didn't have him against the Falcons. and now you're not going to have him. He's already ruled out against the Cowboys. So you traded for someone from the Saints, and I know it's more of a foundational move for the future because it's going to pay future dividends once he has an offseason to heal up and you still got him under contract for another 2 years. I get the move with making that for Lattimore, but right now Lattimore is just for this season. The trade's not fully paying off yet because you've only had him for 2 games. You could say, well, Drew, during those 2 games, they won. Well, they've won 2 other games without him because they won with the Falcons to now be at 4 straight wins. And then they won that first one to start the 4-game streak against a horrible Will Levis led at that time Tennessee Titans team, which now the gift that keeps on giving, as my co-host for Total Football Talk, bing, Cole Nash would say, in the words of my man Kyle Nash with the bing. Putting all that in perspective, when you think of that, with the Tennessee Titans, it started this 4-game streak, but the games that you had him in there, you had him against his former team with the Saints, and you had him with the Eagles. Those are probably, emotionally for him, a tough one, but the Eagles game out of the 4 was the toughest, and at least you had him there to pay his part of the impact for that game. Now, when it comes to the improvement, again, I would say they need to balance the load a little bit more when it comes to their running attack so JD doesn't get run into the ground too soon. In defense, Marshawn Lattimore just needs to find his health, and I don't know if he's going to be able to find that in time for the playoffs because you got this week to rest, and this is it because next week you'll be playing, or at least this team will be playing, and it's do or die. It's playoff situation in that moment. And we'll see if he's ready. We'll see if this team is ready to where I can get excited and click this button after a victory.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
That's all we can hope for. But it all started with that Hail Mary game that I was at. And, you know, I had some fun at that tailgate.
People, I am D. Willie, and this is how you motherfathering tailgates. With Red Zone on a phone from a video on another phone. You can have it right here in the parking lot. If you have a phone in another phone, recording a phone with video on it. On another video. This message is brought to you by D. Willie Ware, Sertoba Media, where it is the struggle to be real, to be awesome.
Did have a few cold ones that day. That's why I said the slogan wrong. I said the struggle to be real, or whatever I just said. It was not, I didn't say it right. I had a few cold ones. We're having a good time. But my point is since then, the Bears can't find a win since that day in Week 8. And now the Commanders are 11-5. Actually unplugged my thing. Oh, well. When it comes to this right here, this situation, the Bears have fallen to what, like 10 straight losses after that game. And now you have the Commanders who are 11-5. Absolutely huge. When you look at the one known as Fingernail Man, and, you know, Ike had brought it up earlier in the comments, it looks like. Yeah, he said he had just watched the Fingernail Man short. While we were on our commercial break, because I was going to find a way to bring this up anyway, with the Chicago Bears, since that game and how things have really evolved for the Commanders and really regressed for the Bears. I made this out of a clip from the Total Football Talk episode from this past Monday.
Yeah, Fingernail Man, that's what you are. Guess what? Bowling balls cover Fingernail Man's fingernail. But no. You know what you can't cover up? Which is served by big old fat old stinker.
You got me with Fingernail Man. Oh my gosh. For those that don't know, yes, Caleb Williams, he likes to paint. I don't know what the heck he wants on his nails.
Makes it more aerodynamic. It does make him more aerodynamic. That was a good time out here with that show. on Monday. You can check out that show every Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time to 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. every Monday afternoon Eastern time. And Ike says, yes, fingernail man. And we will get to Mickey and Ike's back and forth comments on the Cowboys here in the next segment. But when it comes to the showstopper, again, running game balance, defense, get Lattimore back. That's my suggestions for this upcoming playoff run to start the wild card round. We'll see if they're the 6th seed or the 7th seed. But with my predictions, I'll break down where I feel like they're going to be at with this opponent of the week breakdown that I have for the Commanders traveling to Jerry World to take on the 7-9 Cowboys. We'll talk about that game and more after this last commercial break when we come back for the opponent of the week in the final drive.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commanders Gridiron Report. If you want your Commanders to be rep right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commanders Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J.KUL.
Where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side. Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 40. As we talked about, JD and Ertz delivered in overtime to secure the playoff berth for the Commanders for this season. And we have that and more on this first episode of 2025, episode 40 of the Commanders Gridiron Report. I am your host, Drew Willingham, and yes, we have 2 more segments left we have to talk about. Go ahead and start it on out with the opponent of the week.
Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep?
And here with the opponent of the week, week 18, the final week of the regular season. It's finally here. This NFL season went by fast. Could have gone by fast because of all these podcasts I do. But hey, when it comes to this for the Commanders, they're on the road 11-5. Many thought it would be the Cowboys sitting at 11-5 to a Commanders type team of a 7-9 record at this point, and I wouldn't have disagreed with that to start this year out because I had them finishing around 8-9 to 9-8 for this first year, and I was completely wrong. They're finishing right now at this point through 16 games, 11-5, with the potential to get to 12 wins and triple their wins from last season. And how awesome would that be? To triple your wins from last year. That would be absolutely mother, father, and great. More wins than... I didn't predict that. And I don't think you did either. Not many people that I know out there had them getting to double-digit wins at all. I sure as expletive didn't. And if you did, I appreciate you. Because the fact of getting to cover a season like this has been awesome in comparison to what I've seen of years past. Because now that is a Dallas Cowboys-like team. When it comes to that, is it a total...
Surprise, motherfucker.
Shouldn't be, because it's led by Jerry, Mother, Father, and James.
What?
Oh, you know.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Because it is. Now, when it comes to this game right here, I clicked the wrong banner. We were right here for the opponent of the week, not the final drive. So my apologies for those of you reading that bottom ticker. When it comes to the Commanders, 11-5, traveling to Jerry World to take on the Cowboys, who are 7-9. There's a few things I'm going to talk about from their last matchup 5 weeks ago, where Cooper Rush connected on 24 of 32 passes for 247 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Rico Dowdle also had 19 carries for 86 rushing yards, no touchdowns, but it did affect the balancing of that load for that offense as they were able to establish a good running game. The play action was working for Cooper Rush, and that's why he only had 8 incompletions out of 32 passes. So, if CeeDee Lamb can get, north of 50 receiving yards with some help from some others, and they have a balanced running attack, which they haven't really had since around that time, and they really haven't had that consistent of one. It's just been Rico Dowdle that's had some flashes here and there throughout this season. I think they have a chance of beating the Commanders in this game. Now, especially when you look at what they've been playing for, they were fighting for a winning record to finish at 9-8, but the hopes of that ended when they got pummeled by the Eagles last week, 41-7, because they'd gone on a 2-game winning streak. They were 7-8 going into week 17, and they lose to the Eagles 41-7. So losing to the Eagles, that was big. So now even if they win against the Commanders, they finish with an 8-9 record during a 16-game season. They could have potentially finished 8-8 with something like that. That might be their kind of hopes and dreams at this point. Finish strong with the win and to also affect the Commanders get the 7 seed, because if the Commanders lose this game, they will be in the playoffs still, but they will be a 7 seed, which they would face the Eagles again. And even though you beat the Eagles not that long ago, it was just a couple weeks ago, all right? And we're looking at it from the time from this Cowboys game to the time that they play 2 weeks ago when they played the Eagles and beat them by a field goal. It's not the same team you're going to be facing in the playoffs when the 2 seed and the 7 seed face off. So you do not want to face the Eagles to start this playoff run. You want to face the Mother, Father, and Rams, who would be at the 3 seed. And you can ensure that by beating the Cowboys this weekend. We're going to talk about how they can do that. First of all, you got to continue to establish the run. You got to establish the run not just with Jaden Daniels. You got to take those 16 carries down from last week from when he played Atlanta. Take them down to about a solid 10, 11 carries. You can let them get about 90, 95, maybe flirt around 100 yards. I don't think you need to go more than that. You need to give the ball to Brian Robinson Jr. a little bit more. He needs to establish more of a flow and get more than just 60 yards in a game. He's done it before. I know not having Austin Eckler kind of doesn't really help you out with the pass catching abilities from the running back, and you got to balance that out more a little bit with McNichols and such. But looking at it for what it is, Chris Rodriguez too. Chris Rodriguez is still playing pretty well for you at that level to where you can still depend on him in moments like you did this past weekend. I think if you balance that running game out a little bit more to where Jaden Daniels isn't carrying the ball 16 times in a game, you have a pretty good chance of beating the Rams, but you also have a pretty good chance of beating this Cowboys team this weekend. Let's not go too far ahead. We want to get to that Rams game, but you have to do that by beating the Cowboys this week in Jerry World. Now, Commanders have won games this year on the road. They did it in New Orleans, and then you look at what they did, before that when they beat the Giants. It's the Giants. Looking at it for what it is the Mother, Father, and Giants. And the biggest of them all, I would say, was earlier in the season, not only to the Cardinals, but when they beat the Bengals. The Bengals Monday night game was absolutely huge. And I remember I was off from work that night using PTO, and I watched that game. 38-33 win on Monday night. So you got the wins on the road against the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Giants, but then most recently you have where they beat the Saints in New Orleans, even though the Saints aren't that big of a team. Yes, I get it, because the Cardinals aren't a playoff team either. You can look at it and say the Bengals is probably the biggest win on the road, but you got to look at the bright lights that were there. This was Monday Night Football. So outside of the Monday Night Football game, this is a 1 o'clock game. Jerry World, nice place, but make it yours. Commanders can do that. They can go in there and make them their dad, be the daddies of the Cowboys for this season. Daddies of the Cowboys, Commanders, getting commied. Go out there and you get the win. Then you go into the playoffs, the 6th seed, not the 7th seed, and you have a better chance of winning the first round going into the division round. Now, the downfall of that. You win that first game. The lowest seed remaining in the playoffs faces the number 1, which you would automatically go to playing the Eagles. From the Eagles to the Lions. So when you go from playing the Eagles and you go from playing the Lions, I'm telling you, if the Eagles play and they have to, the Eagles are not going to be playing the Commanders in that next round. You would go from playing the Rams to then playing the Lions. Then, when you have the Lions, there's no way you're going to go straight from beating the Lions in the division round, which is why I said before. The Commanders can make the playoffs, and they have a chance of winning the first round, okay, if they face the Rams. But if you go to the division round and you have to go to Detroit and face the Lions, you are going to lose, okay? This is why you have to win this game against the Cowboys. Because if you win this game against the Cowboys, you have a good chance of winning that wild card playoff game, which would be the first wild card playoff win you've had in a very long time. Okay, 20 years. All right. Looking at that for what it is, you then go to the next round. At least you have your happy moment by playing the Lions. And if you give them some hell to start it out, to get their gears going, to start them on a good playoff run between the championship and the Super Bowl, then you did your job and you still have promise for the future. But it all starts by winning this game right here. You still have a chance at beating the Eagles the first round, which we'll talk more about that later, but I don't think that would be a good discussion to have. Your best bet is to get it all started with having better conversations for the next couple of weeks by winning this game against the Cowboys in Jerry World. And then you take that momentum, you go to the Rams, and you whoop them. I mean, they can whoop you too, because, they did win the Super Bowl a few years ago, but this team is not the same. And you do have the weapons on defense if Lattimore can get into the game and stay healthy in that first game of the playoffs. As long as you have him healthy for that entirety of that wild card playoff game, along with the momentum and the things you have built upon with your foundation of this 2024 team, I feel like you have a really good chance at making some noise in that first round. What do you think? Let me know, guys, out here in the comments. We'll get to your comments here in a second. But when it comes to this Cowboys game, you establish the run early. You do it with everyone and not just your quarterback. You get your receivers going. Keep Terry happy. Terry is very close. Let's see. The one thing I want to see real quick while we have this up is what are Terry McLaurin's receiving stats right now for the season? Oh, he did top 1,000 yards, so he's good. He has another 1,000-yard receiving season, which that is now his 5th straight 1,000-yard receiving. He could have had 6, but he only had 919 in his rookie year in 2019. But looking at it for what it is, he went from being a Redskin to a Washington football team member to now a Commander. And in all that time, with all these different quarterbacks, with all of the BS going around out there for this team, he has still hit 1,000 receiving yards in 5 straight seasons. And he has the most touchdowns of any year of his career. He's got 12 right now. So for him to have the game that he had last week, the quiet game, it's okay. Because, I mean, he's still got 12 touchdowns. He still eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards the week before that. So good for Scary Terry for doing what he did to fight through all of the BS around this franchise for the years to actually continue to have the success he is with 1,000 receiving yards, 5 straight seasons with all the different quarterbacks, different names. He survived 3 different franchise names and has those type of stats. He could pad a little bit more against these Cowboys in Jerry World, but I think they're going to have to establish the run more without the running back, or with him, but not as much. And they need to establish the flow of the pass. Ike says, I don't know. But when it comes to what Mickey's saying about put the drink up, it's not that, I guess the weekend, I guess he's having fun on the weekend. I don't know. But right now, when it comes to this, Cowboys.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
Because they are an absolute... You know, even though I fluffed it all up with a bunch of stuff I said, you know damn well this team is going to take the...
Stop it. Get some help.
They do. They need it. They need it bad. So when it comes to that, Commanders going to win this game by... It's not going to be by double digits. I think it's going to be like 7 to 8 points. It's going to be by a touchdown. Might be closer than that because the Cowboys still have some weapons in that team. They can still do some damage. And, you know, even though they're not playing for anything, this is still a rivalry. I feel like they can potentially do a little damage, but they're not going to walk away with the win. They're going to get served the L. It's going to happen. I'm going to say the Commanders win, very similar to how they lost to the Cowboys last time. So they win 35-27. It's going to be about the same type of score, but a little bit different. They lost 34-26 at home. I feel like they get revenge for that home loss in Jerry World. Commanders win 35-27, and that's how I see this story ending for this team for the regular season for 2024.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
Let's take it into the final segment now as we can finally click on this scrolling banner for this one.
We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan never live with regret. Yes, sir.
There it is. Got it up there at the right time. When it comes to the closing thoughts heading into week 18. It's a lot of things that, like I say, it's been one interesting regular season. This is the last preview of a regular season game that we have for the 2024 season here in 2025. And the 40th episode for this show is a lot. Been through a lot through 40 episodes. When this show started, this team was absolutely terrible. And was going through an ownership change, and I was putting a lot of faith in Sam Howell, and it wasn't paying dividends. And this team wasn't paying dividends around him for that. And unfortunately, didn't get to see things through with that regime. And, you know, they're off to different places doing different things for all of them now. Things are a lot better for the Commanders. They have their chance to triple their wins total from last year to 12. Where they were just at 4 for the last season. It was absolutely wild to see this jump go from 4 wins to now 11 with the potential to get to 12, and I'm predicting them to get to 12. Now, how hard they play, I wouldn't say how hard they play, but how long the starters play into the end of the game will be questionable because, yes, they are still playing for something. So I imagine seeing some out there, but I imagine seeing limited action by some. Lattimore's not even in, even though I feel like the way certain reports were going, he was questionable to come in this week. But now with them securing the playoff spot, had they lost this past week and then still would have to fight to get into the playoffs for this weekend, I think he would play. But it's some teams out there that aren't getting the bye, like the Eagles and Bills and other teams are sitting a lot of these key players. It's because they know they don't have the bye like the Chiefs and the Lions do to start this playoff run out. So we'll see how things pan out for this team. But I think that at some point you have to flip the switch. You have to put Mariota in there because you know you're going to go to the playoffs regardless. At the same time, you want that 6th seed. So if JD has to play through 3 quarters and it's still a 1-2 possession game and you're going to the 4th, I'm not going to blame you if you keep him in there, and I don't think that the coaching should be punished because at the same time, that extra quarter of experience, all of this is just working in Jaden Daniels' favor. Every single snap, every single drive this kid gets, it's been beneficial. You can see it. You can see his progression since the Hail Mary game that I was at. I played the clips through for several weeks now. Now the fact that we're at episode 40. But this show started in 2023 with a dumpster Pelican team that was being covered on this broadcast. And now through week 17, going into week 18 of the regular season for the 2024 season, it has been a complete 180 shift for this team. And it has been very enjoyable for myself to be able to cover it throughout this regular season. For week 18, I still have high expectations of this team to win and triple their wins total from last year. In the method that they do it, I'm still not fully sure because I want them to be safe. I always want JD to be safe. There was one play, and I couldn't find the snapshot of it, where he was tackled last week and kind of bent backwards, and it kind of made me think of the RG3 play back in 2012, and it kind of scared the expletive out of me. So he's got to be careful out there because he is the future. He is just like everything that RG3 was hyped up to be back in 2012, except for it took 12 years to finally get it back. And now this team is back after 12 years with a rookie quarterback doing insane things, whether you like the name or not. I will forever have the half sleeve of the old name, and I always hope that it goes back to it to honor the Native Americans. But right here and now, if we got to stay Commanders, I'll stay loyal and true and call them the mother, father, and Commanders, as I want them to get to their 12 wins, as I want them to get into the playoffs and face the Rams and win that first round. From there, at least you got to this point. You make some moves in the offseason. You build on this team. You make moves, especially getting a secondary wide receiver option to complement Terry McLaurin, and you make some other moves within your offensive line and defense, and another staple with a tight end move. I think if you continue to upgrade with these positions as people will be retiring and phasing out, you can build something special, very similar to like what the Chiefs have done. Because the culture that they have established over there in the locker room, you can see it on these players who are beaming and happy and love playing for this franchise. There are people out there that you would never thought that want to now go play for this team just outside of Washington, D.C. that may very well soon, at some point within the next half decade or so, be moving back to the nation's capital. And I just jacked up nation's capital, but there, for editing purposes, I fixed it. Yes, but right here and now, when it comes to the nation's capital, Landover, Maryland, the team in Northwest Stadium, formerly known as FedEx Field, very happy to be covering a team like this at this point. It's been a very tough time being a fan of this team since I was in Huggies. Not just wearing the tattoo and being part of that bloodline or whatnot. You can say that I was wearing the clothes. You can go back on my timelines and the social medias and see I was wearing the Redskins baby clothes. And I will say it because they're saying it. It's okay. You could say it. Just open up. It's okay. Just be one with the name and with the lineage and the history. Be true to yourself. Finally, just admit to those of you out there who are batting too far on the left at one point, not seeing things down the middle. Those of you were just, you got too much caught up in the emotions, okay? This one needed to be left out. This one in the Cleveland Indians, you should have left alone. You should have left sports and the heritage alone. You should have left it alone. Now we have to fight back from Commanders to our name that we were before at some point. I feel like in our lifetime, as long as I live, I think I will. To see it in the near future, I think it's coming because his ownership wants to see it happen. My closing thoughts heading out from this regular season is we are into our final game this weekend. You will see them as the Washington Redskins at some point in the future. Mark this clip January 3rd, 2025. The second time I've said it in a month, and the last time I did, because last time I did, I was wearing the Washington Redskins stuff, the jersey, the hat, and the forever tattoo. It was there. And you were there, you know. So right here and now, it's coming back. If you batted too far left, I forgive you. I mean, I don't pay attention to politics, really, man, except for when this happened. Kind of opened my eyes to how snowflakish people were out here in these streets. And sometimes you gotta reel that back in. You gotta stay relevant with that. And I kind of got disconnected from that a little bit. And I apologize. Of course, the mistake is made. I do not shy away from apologizing. Right here and now, I'm going to tell you that you should too, for those of you who wanted to take it away. Now, when it comes to Week 18, when it comes to this show, right here and now, we will be back next week with the recap of the upcoming game that we just previewed, that being the Cowboys game from Week 18. And we will also be back the following week to at least recap what went down in that wild card game. And fingers crossed, there will be a few more weeks depending on how this playoff run goes for the Washington Commanders. Now, I'm just still can't believe we're here at the same point where at the end of episode 40, I don't even think about the episodes that far in ahead when I start the season like I did. And when we started the season, it's now through 18 weeks. It did one through the bye week too. So yeah, that was like what, episode 22, 23. And I had no thought of this being a thing where triple your wins from last year. This is a pretty cool experience to cover that. Very proud of this franchise. Very proud of the fact that I was able to at least make it to one of the 8 home games and be there. So to round out this episode, I'll go through a couple comments and we'll get to the very end of the show here soon. Sick Diggy's in the house says, "What's good, everybody?" What's up there, Sick? Glad to see you here. Make it before the end of the show. And I do have an announcement to make before I leave here too. Excuse me for being late. No, you're all good. I appreciate you being here. James, what's up, man? Glad to have you back here. He said JD mic'd up is on YouTube. It's good. I watched that earlier. I'm glad you brought that up. I just, for infringement purposes, I didn't want to bring that onto the show, as pictures are one thing, making graphics are another, but they kind of strike you out here when you use the videos. This isn't an overnight thing. The franchise's turn is for the long haul. Absolutely. I mean, they did a lot of work during the offseason to even be at this point. So for them to have another offseason after this one to work with it, it's going to be a scary team, hopefully, because a lot of these teams that start off this hot, like the Houston Texans last year, we see it, the slump they've been having this year. Even though they are a playoff team, they are not the same team. And I don't think the Commanders will fall to that. It all depends on health and attitudes within the locker room, I think. And I feel like they're going to be okay. I feel like we've got something special going on over there. If they don't bring that back the name, they could possibly use a variation and update the old logo as well. I think that you could see a scenario where they bring back the logo, and the logo won't change. The logo is the biggest reason everybody in the fan base and even those who aren't even fans of the team, just fans of football and sports in general, are upset because, of what it represents. I understand and have been on the record with Total Football Talk and even on here. I'm on the record with saying that I don't mind if they don't bring the name back. But I'm at least happy to see is that people are not getting upset anymore over the name Redskins, because that's the biggest gripe that I had. Like, I understand not putting that as the franchise name, but I disagree with at least taking away the logo. And now that they're at least representing that again, and the fact that they are not only putting the logo out there, they're putting the name Redskins back out there too on the jerseys. So you're going to see those. You're going to see those heavily throughout next year. It's coming. So, but I do have one more announcement to make before I get on out of here, because I see the comments. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and for being here, whether you're coming in late or not. I do have one more episode today that is not related to Commanders Gridiron Report. I'm going to be doing Total Football Talk Extra here in probably about 30 to 45 minutes. I say about 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I will knock that show out. Not going to be too long. Just going to be talking about the Monday Night Football game and the Snowflake of the Week and Dog of the Week from that game right there from this past Monday night. I'd say probably about a 30-minute long episode, but if you want to come on back and be a part of the comments, that would be cool. I would appreciate it. If not, it is at least content for people to watch once it's posted after the live goes and is in the you know what I'm saying, the replay. But it's been a long week. There's been a lot happening. Made some moves out here in these streets and these streams. I'm going to continue to do so. And I do know that we only have probably one more episode left of Total Football Talk Extra after today, which is after the Monday night game from the wild card round. Not this week, but the following week. So there won't be an episode of Total Football Talk Extra next week. There will be a final one for the 2024 season the upcoming week, as we'll be recapping the final Monday night game of the year, as it is a playoff game. So when it comes to that right there, when it comes to this episode of the Commanders Gridiron Report, just want to say thank you as always for tuning in and watching episode 40. Please like, share, and subscribe if it's your first time tuning in. Subscribe to this channel. If it's your however many time to come back, you haven't done so, please click on that like button to help us out here with the algorithm. And as always, hope to see you back for the next episode of whatever it is I'm doing out here in these streams. To be a part of it, because we have Total Football Talk every Monday with Cole Johnson. Total Football Talk Extra again. You can see me here shortly. This show will be back next week, probably on Friday again. And D. Willie in the evening will be back soon. Just got to find time to get back to recording that. Taking a little bit of a holiday break from that. And the day of Berth is going to be coming up soon. So it's a little bit of a breather from that one. Even though it's fun, it takes a little bit of extra work you got to put into it to make it happen. So with that being said, this is a little bit of a final, recap of everything going on right now with the brand, Sertoba, myself, when it comes to this and the life of this part of it. And, Commanders. 12 wins. Let's make it happen this week. You guys can do it. Thank you for tuning in. As always, you can check out Sertoba Media on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X. You can find me right here on Instagram, X, Snapchat, and Facebook out here in these streams. Come on back now when it comes to this show in about 30 minutes or so, and I'll see you at that point. As always, I've only got one more thing to tell you, and that is to please stay safe out here in these streets.
Who do we rep? Commanders, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, Commanders, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers, now we step, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, now we step, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers,
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.